everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we're going back to 2005 to the sad case of George Smith, who was on this beautiful ship on his honeymoon of all times and went overboard. And most of the time when I talk about these cases, they're not homicides, but this case has been in the media for many years with the family fighting to prove that he was killed. And he did not fall over accidentally or commit suicide. And I will say this, there was no suicide involved here. So either he was murdered or he fell overboard, one of the two. And there are enough interesting people involved in this story. It's not just one of these stories where last time somebody saw him, he just was with his mom and dad, and then he was alone in his stateroom and then went over. It's not like that. There's some characters here who are very questionable. So then one has to figure out whether they were involved or not. Now, mind you, this case has been looked at by, well, first of all, the Royal Caribbean Company. They had first investigated it, and also the Turkish police, because it was in their waters at the time, I guess. And then the FBI had it for 10 years, and nothing's ever come of it. It's pretty much been put to bed as most likely an accidental death. Family's not happy about that. They did sue Royal Caribbean, and they got money. Not enough. I don't know whether what they decided on that. It's kind of a funny thing because the wife was the first one to get the payout, and his parents and sister kind of turned against her, saying, "Hey, you just took this money," and she was like, "Yeah, it probably was an accident." And then they made another deal with the cruise line, and they got a little bit more money. And then they and the wife at the time shared the money. And since then, nothing really has come out of great useful information. And you wonder, okay, family, if you're really want this information to come out, why isn't it out there? So it's a very convoluted mess as far as the details of this case. And I'm going to take you through what details make sense, what details don't make sense, and what we can't necessarily know are actually any kinds of facts at all. And I'll take you through exactly why. And it's a really fascinating case. So I'm going to get to it in a second. I just want to welcome those who are in the chat room. I appreciate you being here. Kara's just rolled on in, and who else has just rolled in? I said hello to most everybody. Amy's just come in. Trying to see if anybody else. I miss Julia's here too. We Evil is here. And so I think I've caught up with everybody. Thomas is here. Hell. All right. We have a good crowd in here tonight, and I thank you for being here. And if you would like to be in the chat room, please do. Join Patreon. $5 a month covers 8 live shows, 8 live chats. I do a hangout during the week, and I discuss all kinds of stuff. And then on the weekends, I do cases like this, and you can be in the chat room. It's only $5 a month, and it does support an educational channel. And even if you don't show up in the chat room, I appreciate you supporting an educational channel. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Please do subscribe to the channel. Click the likes, click the bell for notifications, and check my playlist for all the cases I've already done. Especially if you have anything in particular in your mind, go to the search engine at YouTube and put in Profiler Pat Brown and the case you're interested in, and see if I've done it. This is an educational channel. My intention here is to go through the thought process of how I look at crimes, how I analyze evidence, and how things really work. This is not a storytelling channel. If you're just here to hear the story, probably in the wrong place. And I will recommend, in this particular case, a channel that has done a good job storytelling. Hold on, I got to find it. I meant to link it here. I will link it below, but it is. Let me tell you who did the good one. I thought that would be. Oh, come on. Just Thought Lounge. Just Thought Lounge, who got 1 million views on this, and I will not. but he does a good job. So if you want a storytelling channel, this is one I recommend. I thought he stuck pretty much with the information that does exist publicly, didn't go off on some weird analysis stuff or thoughts that were just whatever. And so I found it very good. So Just Thought Lounge, I'll link it below in case you want to just hear the story. And you can watch that and skip my show. But let's get to what actually happened. All right. So somebody's been going on a first cruise. All right. I used to be a cruise ship speaker. I spoke for Celebrity, Norwegian, and I did one trip on, what was that? The Queen Mary. Yeah. And I did the Mediterranean tour on, I think it was Celebrity with my daughter. So I got to bring along somebody. You don't get paid for cruise ship speaking, but you get a free cruise. And I got free flights because I refused to do it unless I got that. So my daughter and I went on this cruise, all expense paid, and I did speaking, just 3 different shows, presentations, shall we say, to the audience on the cruise, because there's always a few days at sea, which there's nothing, you're not on land, so you're spending all day on that boat. And so what they do is they have people like me speak, so there's something to kill the time with. And so that was kind of cool. So they were on this Mediterranean cruise, a similar type of Mediterranean cruise. So what happened? So I will give you the story, but only because these are important things in this story that I'm going to be referring to. And I'm going to use, just so I can skim over it, there's a group, it's on Medium. It's called The Honeymoon Murder, written by Eliza. I'll link that too, just because I'm using her stuff. So anyway, the basic story is this. He's a 26-year-old dude, and very handsome, by the way. 6 foot, he is handsome. 6'2", 200 pounds. He was a linebacker. This is important. The 6'2", 200 pounds and linebacker. Keep that in mind for him going overboard or somebody throwing him overboard. He had a business degree from Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And he worked as a computer search engine analyst and got bored with it. So he decided he would return to his hometown, Greenwich. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, actually. Is it Greenwich in that location or Greenwich? I would say Greenwich, but, different pronunciations in different locations. Like Lancaster and Lancaster, 2 different pronunciations. He went to work for his father, who was a proprietor of Cos Cob Liquor. And then the idea was he was going to take over that business and his parents could retire. So that was his plan. And then on June 25th, 2005, he married Jennifer Hagel in a beautiful mansion overlooking the cliffs of the Atlantic. And it's a gorgeous wedding. It is. She was 25, and that's her. She was from Connecticut. They got along great, supposedly. And so everything was really good until they went on this honeymoon cruise. So they got on the Brilliance of the Seas, and they flew over. I guess they started in Barcelona. And then let's see what happened here. There's a few days go by. They're okay. Everybody's alive. They're having a good time. He, when he's in Florence, Italy, buys a bottle of absinthe. And this does sort of have something to do with this case, in the sense that they were drinking it on the night he disappeared overboard. And absinthe, people go, oh my God, that's that hallucinogenic stuff. Well, it once upon a time was. Most of it is not these days. In different countries have allowed different amounts of certain ingredient. And I'm pretty sure what he bought probably had almost nothing in it. However, it is strong alcohol. I mean, if you're doing a lot of shots of it, it can do you in. And people oftentimes don't think about that, especially females, that when they're drinking, a lot of times they think, oh, I've been roofied, I don't remember anything. Well, that's because you had 10 shots along with the rest of the stuff you drank. That's way too much for you to be able to handle. And so you get trash drunk, and then you pass out and you wake up and you don't know what the heck happened. So he brought that on board because he worked for his father's liquor store. He liked food and wine and liquor. So anyway, they were having a good time. Now, mind you can't bring liquor aboard, but he snuck it aboard. So there is an issue about what can come on and off of a ship. And I think now I know that my daughter and I brought wine back from, where was it? Greece. We were in Greece, and we grabbed a whole bunch of wine there. And I think you have to, when you arrive, they take it away from you and they put it in storage and they give it back to you at the end. They don't want you to bring your own liquor on because it's cheaper than what they're going to sell you. So that's how they deal with it. So you can't really bring it on board. there are some little variations of that. You also go through metal detectors. So this is important as far as what can weapons come aboard. So in other words, could he have been harmed before he was thrown overboard with like a knife or something? And they do go through metal detectors. I'm not saying people have never snuck by metal detectors, but they do that. Every time you come into port and come back, you go through them again. So I will say this, because people are very unfair, I think, in some ways to cruise ships. There's over 3,000 people on this cruise. I think it's like 2,700 or 2,800 passengers and about 800 crew. That's a lot of people. It's a small town. And this small town, if you think about it, probably has stricter regulations than most towns. First of all, you don't have nobody's drinking and driving, which is why people drink so much, because they think, well, I'm not going to drive anyway. So they do sell a lot of liquor. People do drink a lot, and they do gamble a lot. So that happens there. But the security coming on and off is more secure than any town you'll ever live in, because every other town you live in, people can stab you and shoot you down in the supermarket. Here, it's a lot safer, actually. Also, people are paying to be here. So generally speaking, you have people, first of all, going on vacation in a good mood. And secondly, they're paying a reasonable amount, unless it's one of the cheaper cruise lines. And I won't say which one, but there's one of those that goes to the Caribbean. And let me tell you, it's pretty cheap. Don't go on that one. Anyway, the ones that have a little bit more cost, generally speaking, people are going to have a nice vacation. There's a lot of people who are retired because that's what they do in retirement. But there's also a lot of young people, especially on things like honeymoons, getting together with groups going, and each person pays their way. And so you can get rowdiness for sure. But generally speaking, you get people who probably are better than what you're going to get at the local bar down the street. However, there have been quite a few instances of sexual assault because people get so bloody drunk. And that's one of the problems. And they throw care to the wind, and they go off in somebody's cabin they shouldn't be in. And things, not such great things happen. The cruise line can only do so much. Now, whether they were at fault in this, I don't think they're at fault for what happened here, but it's the investigation that there are issues with. Like, they didn't do a proper investigation. And that could be true, and I can't prove one way or the other. So, all right. So, this is true. Texas Redhead says, fake bottles, refill and reseal wine bottles. Yes, this is done. Small glass bottles with plastic lids so the metal detectors don't catch them. There's a lot of ways. There are, if you really want to work at it. Some people take, like, one person had, like, her son did a Scope bottle, and he put vodka in it, and then he made it the green that matched Scope. And so when he came in, they just like, okay, you got, and somebody said, well, that's a lot of Scope to take with you on a 1-week cruise. But yeah, so there's people who do this. As far as weapons go, theoretically, you're not getting by, but who knows? There's all kinds of interesting methods again. And I looked up whether they use real steak knives. I do think so, steak knives in the restaurants. So you could easily steal a steak knife, and that's a knife. So yes, you can probably, if you worked at it. And I want you to keep this in mind, whether somebody works at it too. In this case, we have something that went down within one evening. And so I don't think there's what we call great premeditation. And so when I get into what happened to him and the people that were around him, think about, is there really going to be premeditation here? Okay. So anyway, here they are. Now they're all on the ship. They're going, let's see, they spent a happy day together in Greece on July 4th, have a lovely time. And then they go that evening. It starts pleasantly in their room, 9062. Jennifer puts on her makeup, and George goes out on the balcony and smokes a cigar. Now, this smoking a cigar thing is an issue, because later Jennifer is willing to accept and even supposedly, and I might do this a lot during the show, supposedly, the information we get is so questionable. But supposedly when she accepted the payout, she said that she thought maybe he went and smoked a cigar and sat on the balcony let me just show you quickly the balcony that he went off of. So here we go. Okay. So this is his room, which is kind of a mess because they're drinking a lot. That's the balcony. And that he went, there's no question he went over the balcony. The question is how he went over the balcony. So he's here and he goes over the balcony and slams onto this down here is it's a awning or a canopy over the lifeboats. It's made of metal, which means it's not super solid like hitting cement, but he was going like 20 or 30 feet and hit that. And then there is also, this is, you can see, this is the lifeboat. He was way up there. He's on level 9, and I'm not quite sure if that's level 9 or what, but anyway, he dropped quite a bit. And this is where he landed. And there's that. So, and you can see there's quite a bit of blood here that he must have been there at least for a period of time before he fell off the boat. There are some fingerprints that appear to be on the edge, like on this. I have another picture of that somewhere. And so it looks like he tried to grab on at some point and unfortunately kept going. All right. So the concept here that he was sitting out on the balcony, that he would have fallen over, and the claim here in Jennifer, the widow, is like going along with this program, that he might have sat up on this railing as opposed to just sitting in the chair. He sat up on the railing, smoking a cigar, and then lost his balance. Okay. Could that happen? The answer is yes. When people drink, they do stupid stuff. So did he do stupid stuff? Did he think, oh, I just want to get up higher and look out? I don't know. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. Thinking he's perfectly fine. He's got a hold of the railing. He's stable. He's sitting there. He's got his feet on the chair. He's not going to fall over. He's smoking a cigar, and he goes over. Could that have happened? Yes. So I can't rule it out, but I don't know that that's what happened. And the only reason I think it's unlikely to have happened is because we're talking about, at the time he goes overboard, it's like 4:25 in the morning. He's been drinking all night. I mean, he's supposedly has come back, his new friends. I'm going to get into the new friends, put him in the bed because he's like really trash drunk. And I'll get to where Jennifer disappeared off to. And he's down on the bed, supposedly to take his shoes off and say goodnight. And he's like, good night. At that point, does he really want to get up and smoke a cigar? I find that unlikely, but that's one of the theories. All right, so let's go back to what's happening on the ship. All right, so they aren't. They're about 4 foot, at least 4 feet, 4 foot, 4.5. I think that's the range. They're not like up to here because I guess nobody wants to sit in a chair and you can't see over the balcony, right? The whole point is sit in a chair and you look out. So they are high enough. I mean, they're high enough where you can't walk up, hold on to the balcony and just flip over it. Now, true, he's taller, so it would come lower on him, but you're not just going to flip over the balcony. You have to do something stupid to go over the balcony, or somebody has to make you go over the balcony. Otherwise, you're just going to be looking out, or you're going to be sitting in a chair. So now I will point this out. Since the advent of balconies in private staterooms, the overboard rate and probably murder rate has increased because you're in a private place. If you want to get rid of somebody, in the middle of the night, throwing that body overboard straight from the balcony isn't a bad methodology. So, yeah, they were drinking shots of absinthe, yeah, and yeah, so not it's a lot. So anyway, now let's go on. So now he's having a cigar. They go out and have a dinner, and then they go gambling. Now here's where things start getting a little confusing onto what the motive. If anybody hurt him, what would the motive be? All right. George or Jennifer or both were overheard. And again, here we have gossip. I wish all channels would say this because I don't have a police report. The FBI has never released their report. I don't know why everything is so secretive. The cruise lines hasn't released a proper report. Neither has anybody else. So all we have is people saying stuff. And I did link, Yeah, I watched 48 Hours Murder at Sea. I have the information in the. I don't have the link because you have to have like Paramount or wherever you can find it. I did not like that video very much. I thought it was pretty awful. Uh, I like the other guys better on YouTube. Um, they where they got the information from is real questionable, and and just because they saw information someplace or were told somebody looked at some information doesn't make it the information. And that's what we always have to keep in mind when you're analyzing something, as opposed to just hearing a story and go, no, that's cool. You have to understand that you may not be getting anything accurate. All right, so they were overheard saying they had heaps of wedding gift cash or perhaps casino winnings locked away in their cabin. The amount varied from witness to witness, 14,000, 17,000, or even 50,000. Whether the Smiths actually possessed a store of thousands is unknown. George's family doubts it. What's important is the perception that they did. Okay. Now, again, I don't know whether they were going around going, "Oh my God, we got so much money from our wedding. We're just flushing cash. We got 10,000 in our stateroom. We're just going to gamble it away." I don't know if they said something stupid like that. Don't do that. Just to say, you don't want to be bragging about any ounce of cash. But I don't know that they ever did. Somebody said they did, but what does that mean? Are they misrepresenting what they said? They could have said anything, and somebody could be misrepresenting it. So I just don't know. What I do know is this: when we get to if the place was ransacked for money, and there's usually there's a safe. There's going to be a safe in a cruise ship, so they would have theoretically the money in the safe. That could have an issue whether somebody has to open the safe up. Depending on who put the money in the safe would be who put the code in. I traveled with my daughter recently to New York. I put all our stuff in the safe, and I put the code in. My daughter couldn't have gotten in there, which is probably not a good. If something had happened to me, she wouldn't have been able to get in the safe. If I would have to tell her what the code is. So I don't know which one of them would have put the things in the safe. And I assume they put their passports and at least something was in the safe. But how much money was in the safe is questionable. One thing we know is that Jennifer didn't complain that any money was missing. You would think if they were robbed, then she would say, "Hey, I know she's going to want to claim that, $10,000 in the safe and it's gone." And she'd want to point the fingers at one of those guys that was with him and not her toward the end of the last time he was seen. She would point the finger saying, those guys took him back to his room. 4 guys took him back to his room. I wasn't with them. I don't know. I don't know if they forced him to open the safe, steal the money. I have not heard one word of her saying that she thought he was forced to open the safe and give them a pile of money, or that any money was missing. So this is where things get really blurry. All right. So going on my fourth, though, they looked very prosperous. He bought her the biggest diamond you could ever see, and she did still have the diamond, but she wasn't with him when he went overboard. But there's something else. It's important here. She notes too that her son dressed smartly and wore an expensive Breitling watch, a wedding gift from Jennifer and George's best man. People turned to look at them wherever they went. So he was really well dressed. So he was considered, I don't know if he considered a rich guy, but certainly a guy who had some money. And to me, let me show you the watch that he had on. And this to me may play, I'm going to say may play a very important part. Hold on a second. My phone is dying and I'm going to need it in a minute. Let me plug it in. All right. This is the watch. That's the watch on his arm, supposedly. All right. It is a Breitling watch. I've never heard of it, but I want you to look at how much they cost. See that number there? $6,000. See that number there? $10,000. I looked through the website. The cheapest watch was $5,000. The most expensive around $11,000. I can't even understand owning a watch that costs that much. It's like boggles my mind. However, and it was new. This is something also to keep in mind. It was a new watch. So he had gotten that as a wedding present. He's running around with a brand new $5,000 to $10,000 watch. Now, she didn't complain that his watch was missing. Why? Because it might have been on his body when his body went over. And, he was wearing it. And if he falls over, he might fall over with a watch on him. Apparently, he was not dressed for bed. So it wasn't like he got undressed and, was in night clothes and took his watch off. So he would be wearing the watch because he was still dressed. He was drunk. So he's just like laying in bed, or he gets up and goes out on the balcony, or somebody takes him out on the balcony, whatever. And if he goes overboard, the watch would go with him unless somebody else took it. And that's an interesting thing we'll get into. So, but they looked like they could have money. So now they go to the casino and they meet a group that all these different websites call one of two things: the Russians or the Russian Americans. And this drives me nuts. All right. So here they are. These are the Russians or the Russian Americans. Now, unbelievable why they would call them this. They're not Russians. They're Americans. First of all, they're Americans. Their parents were Russian and immigrated to the United States. Now, I could not find out how long these guys had been here, but I can tell you, not one of them spoke with a Russian accent. All right. These two guys had a pretty bland accent. They're both from New York. And I thought they would have more of a New York accent than I heard, but there was no Russian accent. This guy, this guy's from Boca Raton, and this will come into play a little bit later as well. But somebody said this about him. I thought it was pretty funny. The white boy, because I'll link some of the I have an interview with him. I'll link it. So it's pretty funny. The white boy at 2,500 is killing me. He from Boca Raton, speaking like that. He want to be gangsta so bad. And that is exactly the way he speaks. So he's not have a Russian accent at all. And these guys don't either. So why they're calling them Russians or Russian Americans annoys me, because it interferes with understanding this case. And you'll see again why. So, well, let me tell you one of the reasons why. Some people thought they're part of the mob, Russian mob. There's no evidence of that at all. I mean, it's like, really? Okay, so let me tell you who these guys are. So this is over here we have, and I'll try to review this when we go through this, because this is the important part of the case. This guy over here is, okay, this is Zachary. Zachary, and he's over there from Brooklyn. See? It's like they should speak more like Brooklyn. Okay. Anyway, this is Zachary Rosenberg. All right. He is 18 years old. This guy is his cousin, formerly of Brooklyn, but now in Florida. His name is Gregory Rosenberg. So 18 years old, 19 years old, cousins. This guy is Rostislav. Okay, that is a Russian name, but hey, okay, Kaufman, also known as Rusty. And they're from Brooklyn. Okay, Brooklyn, originally from Brooklyn. So, and I hear no Russian accents going here. So, that's just, it really bugs me when that's put out there, because I'm trying to make something of it when I don't think it has any meaning. All right. I would say guys from Brooklyn more than I'd say they're Russians. All right. So, but everybody says it this way. So by this point in the cruise, and there's a fourth guy. Let me show you the fourth guy. The fourth guy in this little pack that's running around with George is, he's missing. Hold on a second. Oh man. No, I've got the missing picture. No, seriously. Okay, let me go look for the missing picture. There we go. Okay, this is the fourth guy. He is Josh Askin from California. He's a rich kid from California. He was with his parents, and Gregory complained that he's a spoiled kid, a crybaby type dude. Now, mind you, Gregory is a big mouth, but Gregory talks nonstop. He says he's ADHD. That's why he does it. But he likes to talk. And so he's like, this guy's a crybaby. So you have the three guys who are friends, cousins, and you have a cousin and a friend. And then you have this complete stranger guy who's also joining in with the group. This is important because when you try to say all these guys are involved in this and what went down, that they all maybe uh, wanted to rob George, you got to wonder why the rich kid from California would waste his time robbing anybody. The other three guys, yeah, it makes more sense. They know each other. They're not rich kids. So, yeah, and we'll get to this criminal in a minute. So this is the group. All right. The Russians themselves cultivated swaggering, streetwise personas. Well, yeah, and he's a, I would venture to say, I will use my psychopath word. I'm saying he comes across as a psychopath to me. And when they interviewed him in the show, he was in prison because he's a drug trafficker. Okay, so he's not a nice guy. And by the way, a little bit later, and after this all happened, he got shot to death. There we are. They only offered 3,000. Guess nobody cared that much about him. Anyway, he got shot to death in when did he get shot? He's 33 years old then, so he's grown up a bit. So about a decade later, but he gets shot to death outside his own home, and it's never been solved. He's a criminal. So anyway, so now they're palling around. They're loud. Let's go back to the three guys. The three guys are loud, obnoxious, use bad language. They think they're acting like, as the same guy in the middle says later on. He says, basically what he does is says, I'm gangster, so, and he thinks of himself that way. So, yeah. So anyway, these guys are palling around. And very obnoxious. Gregory is arrogant, shouting in loud voices, saying F words, and they have a reputation of abusing room service operators. And supposedly he called up and gave a rude order of obscenities and got a warning that if you better not do that again. Security came over. But on July 5th, it happened again on that same night that George went overboard. At any rate, so at 1:24 on that night, they came back to the room and ordered food and were rude and said bad names to the people for not bringing it quick enough. Security supervisor came again to their room and instructed Mason not to pick it up. That's one of the woman that worked there. And so they went back to the casino. And while they were there, they're now playing. Oh, they'd been there after dinner. They'd been playing craps with Josh Askin, which is the rich kid from California. And that's when they ran into the Smiths. Events proceeded quickly. Okay. Jennifer played poker with Greg Rosenberg. And Josh and George left for Josh's cabin on deck 9 to drink absinthe. George, presumably still with Josh, swung around his cabin to get extra cash, and they were back at the casino at 2:20. The casino closed 10 minutes later. Now, if he actually got cash and he returned to the casino, then one wonders where that cash is, because he couldn't use it in the casino. He supposedly brought it for Jennifer. Where is that cash? How much did he bring down? And did Jennifer complain it was gone? I don't know. Did she think it was in his pocket and he went overboard and took the money with him? And that's possible. Or did somebody take it off of him? All right. So then the casino closes 10 minutes later. And they're riding up the glass elevator. And then there's some stuff here that's just really, I think, quite frankly, unimportant. And then they go to the Star Quest disco. And that's where the last time they're really seen together was around 3 a.m. Now, Greg Rosenberg orders 4 more vodka shots. He gives the shots to George, Jennifer, and another man. And George Smith supposedly is walking without difficulty at that point. And then Jennifer's talking to Greg again. And then Kaufman said he had a bottle of absinthe in his room, but he probably meant Askin. And they went to get the absinthe. And then they came and brought the bottle in. They're not allowed to do, but they drank from that. All right. So now, about 3 to 3:30, Jennifer's pretty drunk and flirty. And let's see what happened here. There was supposedly a little thing between her and her husband that he called her a name, and she kicked at him, and some say she kicked him in the groin and said, "I'm out of here." And how they were all real drunk. Let's put it that way. And so then somebody takes her because they see her. She's off by herself, and one of the staff thinks she's not got it all together. So he helps her onto the elevator. She gets up to deck 9. She gets off the elevator, but instead of turning left toward her cabin, she goes the other direction and collapses unconscious on the floor. But he never saw that, so she's just laying on the floor. So now George is still in the disco. At 3:45, is apparently so drunk on vodka and absinthe that Askin and the Russians assist him back to 9062. So now they're taking, she's lying on the floor, and nobody's seeing her lying on the floor. So there she is, and she really is lying on the floor because they find her there. They find her there later. So now they drank the absinthe. Now they're staggering down the hall to 9062. All right. So, and this is where things start to get confusing. All right. The basic statement is this. After walking George back to 9062, Zachary Rosenberg's witness statement says, "We put him to bed and even took off his shoes. He was in his bed, passed out, not moving. We went back to my room and ordered room service around 4:30. Gregory gives the basics, same thing. He just leaves out the room service in his statement. So he says, yeah, that's what will happen, but didn't mention the room service. Josh, on the other hand, that's the extra fella. This guy said, well, when we entered George's room, I went and used the bathroom. And then when I came out of the bathroom, I just said bye and left. All right. So now we have a real issue here about, okay, these four guys say they basically dropped off George and then left and went down, had food and all that stuff, and then went to bed. Except that about 4:25 in the morning, George goes overboard. Okay. And he's heard hitting it. And when he hit that, boom, it made a lot of noise and people heard it. Okay. So now the question comes down to is what happened? What happened at that point in time? What is this picture of? Oh, I'll get back to him in a minute. Okay. Let me go to the three guys. Here's where you can't necessarily believe what you're hearing because everybody's story is slightly off. Their stories are slightly off, but so are the people that are reporting this in 48 hours or coming out from somebody else. So what I want to read to you is the major issues here. All right. The first issue, and this is going to be hard to keep in mind, I think. So about 3:52, somewhere around there, they bring him up to his room, but Jennifer's not there. Mind, she's lying on the end of the hallway, which nobody sees at the far end. So they don't find her there. So supposedly, George says, let's go look for my wife. So all five of them leave. Now, he's not so drunk he can't, which is interesting to me. Supposedly, when they took him to this room, the reason they had to escort him there was because he was pretty damn drunk. But now they want to go on this excursion. It didn't last long, like 10 minutes. They go down the hall, get on an elevator, go to some an area where there's, I don't know, some kind of pool area, whatever, where maybe people hang out. And they looked around there, didn't see her, and went back upstairs. Now, I question whether they bothered to take, why would they even take him with them? I don't know why they would bother. Why don't you just lay there and we'll go look for her. But anyway, maybe he did. But we don't know. So anyway, they come back and now they're in the room about 4 o'clock in the morning. They're in the room. However, they're all there and at the room. Now there is evidence that the room door was opened twice at that first time before they went to look for Jennifer, and the second time when they came back from looking for Jennifer. So now they're all at 4 o'clock. The door does open, approximately 4 o'clock. The pass key shows that they went in. Okay. So now, which means probably they did take George with him, because if he was inside, they would have to knock, and then, well, I guess they could have just taken his passkey and said, we'll use it to get back in. Yeah, they could have done that. So we don't know. But anyway, about 4 o'clock-ish, they re-enter the room. Somebody opens the door to the room. Now, that's at 4 o'clock. Then it says this, passkey records allegedly. Now you see the word allegedly. Yeah, I'm having problems with the allegedly word. Why? I do not see any records anyplace. Like they're not being really shown. I mean, there's a couple that fly by on 48 hours. I like to race them by you so you can't really see them, either because they don't want you to see certain names on there, or because they're fake and 48 hours put them together. Yeah. But what we hear is these 2 times that doors were opened, but not up here. We now hear that at just 4:05 a.m., that's 5 minutes later, they dump him off, right? Theoretically. And then they go down to 3008. It's on the 3rd deck. And it says here, it shows Zach opening stateroom 3008 at 4:05. So 5 minutes later, all of this group is supposedly on the 3rd deck. And Greg, Zach, that's the cousin of the loudmouth criminal. Okay. He opens up his door, supposedly. It shows him opening up the door. Unless there's a camera, they're not showing him opening up anything. All it said is a passkey was used to open the door. We don't know who went in that room. We have no idea. And supposedly, by the way, I think his younger brother was also staying in that room with him. So, but regardless, somebody entered the room. For that matter, it could have been the younger brother. He could have gone out, done something, and came back. We don't know that the younger brother wasn't the one opening up the room at 4:05. So when they tell you Zach opened up his room at 4:05, you don't know that. We know somebody did, either one of the group or the younger brother. And then it says Greg opened 3:04, 2 minutes later. So just a couple down, Greg, the loudmouth criminal, who's now dead, they said they had him opening the door. Again, we don't know that he opened the door, because there were more than one of them staying in these rooms. So if he was staying, I'm trying to figure out who stayed with whom. I'm going to say if Greg, and I don't know this, but if Zach had his younger brother with him, it would be the 2 of them in one room. And then it would be Gregory and the Rusty guy in the other room. So we don't know that Greg opened it. Rusty could have opened it. But now we have this interesting problem. If the 4 of them were up in 962 at 4 a.m., they're down 3 flights down at 4:05. So that would mean they jumped him in the bed, as they said, went quickly away, got in the elevator, went right down, with not going anyplace else. Now, one does wonder why Greg took an extra 2 minutes to get 2 doors down. So was Gregory really with the group, or did he come later? And that's interesting. Now, however, nothing has happened yet up here. He's still alive. So nothing happened between 4 and 4:05 when their keys were down there. But what's interesting, which we do not hear and drives me crazy, is that there are 2 things happened. Either that passkey was never used again, or it was. And we have no record. I hear nothing about any of the passkeys being used after 4:05 and 4:07 on the 3rd deck. So did the guys just stay in the room and never go back up here and have nothing to do with this? Or you don't have to use a passkey if you can knock on the door and people let you back in. Did some of them leave the room again and go back up here? But then they couldn't get in this room. Well, they could have. They stole the passkey because he's drunk. So they could do that. They either have to knock and he has to let them in, or oh, wait a minute. The passkey wasn't used again up here. So that couldn't have happened. So therefore, somebody had to be in the room to let them back in. So you see how confusing it is. The other possibility is that 3 of them never actually went down to the 3rd. The 4 of them never went down to the 4th floor, the 4th deck. I'm sorry, the 3rd deck. Sorry, I got the wrong one. 3rd deck. Maybe they didn't do that. Maybe one of them was given a key. The passcode. Maybe good old Josh, the one from California, they're like, hey, go down and order room service for us, and gave him a couple of the pass keys and said, oh, check on my brother. I don't know. And so both of those doors were opened for whatever reasons. Don't know. So maybe the three of them never actually came downstairs. So now let me tell you the rest of the story, because I said this is how confusing it all is as to what happened. All right. So now let's see. All right. So what happens here is now the story of the police officer who was sleeping in the room, in the stateroom next to 9062. All right. There was a sort of disturbance in that room about 4 o'clock when they said they were leaving them there. Just disturbance woke passengers in the adjoining cabins. Cleet Hyman, a deputy police chief from California, Redmond, California, said he heard what sounded like a college drinking game in progress. Into an argument. Was like a college drinking game that progressed into an argument. Raucous noise coming from both the cabin and the balcony. It sounded to him as though furniture was being moved around. This is all happening at 4 o'clock when they were bringing him up there. At 4:05 a.m., Hyman banged on the cabin door. So he must have left his room and actually banged on the door and called security, which reportedly did not arrive until nearly half an hour later. Now, think about this right here. If somebody is banging on your door saying, hey, whatever, cut it out, this is not a good time to kill somebody, because people know you're in the room, right? Anyway, meanwhile, the noise escalated, now sounding like furniture being thrown against the walls, according to passengers on the other side. So, and these people are being woken up, and drunk people can be very loud. So I don't know how accurate this is as to what's really happening in the room. Okay. Wait a minute. This is I want to go to the better one. I'm sorry. I accidentally, this is the one I want to read. Okay. Where did it go? Hold on a second. Hold on one second. I'm missing the one that I wanted, the more accurate version, which I wanted to read from, because, oh, here it is. All right. The more accurate version, which I've lost. Where did everything go? Hold on a second. Hold on. You know me, I always lose something. Let me go back to the actual, I'm going back to the actual, here it is. I thought I'd copied it, but what happened to the room? This is what I want. All right. I want the exact timeline we're hearing from the Hyman guy. Okay. This is more accurate. Sorry, I took a little side detour there. Okay, so Cleet Hyman, a deputy police chief from Redlands, California, was staying with his wife in stateroom 9064 next to the Smiths. Here are excerpts from his typewritten statement. Just after 4 o'clock on the morning of July 5th, I was awakened by loud yelling in 9062. The yelling sounded like persons cheering on someone doing shooters. I removed my earplugs and could again hear the subjects yelling in unison. At this, which is interesting, because I thought George was so drunk, all they could do is dump him in the room, and they supposedly had left him there. And so, in that few minutes, they brought him to the room, and now they're doing shooters. And who's opening up the doors of the stateroom on the third deck? See how that doesn't really go together well? So anyway, are they doing shooters? All kinds of things could be happening. Let me give you another thing possible. Let's say the guy's heavy and you're trying to get him out of bed. So 2 of you take him by the arms and 2 of you take him by the feet, and you go 1, 2, 3, dump. And they think it's funny. Of course, they could have done that off the balcony too, right? 1, 2. But at this point, he's not dead, by the way. He's definitely not dead. So, because he didn't hit the balcony, he didn't go off the balcony until 4:25 in the morning. So we're back at 4 to 4:05. What's going on in the room? It sounds like more like they're having fun than anything bad happened at that point. So at this point, I called the guest relations desk and reported the disturbance. I also banged on the wall. Now you see how these two stories are different. One is he banged on the door, and one he banged on the wall. I'm going to go with a banged on the wall. I don't believe the other one. So there you go. That's how bad media is. Why do I think he went out and banged on the door? Because he's adjoining. And you know how you do that when you're pissed? Otherwise, he's got to get out of bed. I don't know what he's wearing. You got to go out into the hallway. It's easier to just beat on the wall because you're pissed off. During the next several minutes, there was talking in the room, but I was not able to distinguish voices. It was quieter in the room for approximately 5 minutes. And then there was loud arguing on the balcony between several male subjects. I could not tell what was being said, as it sounded like it was Spanish. Dude, you're from California. Do you not know what Spanish sounds like? Because if these guys are talking in Russian, I find that hard to believe that you mistook it for Spanish. But okay, maybe they're just talking Brooklynese. You know what I mean? Maybe Mr. Gangsta Dude is just talking crap, and he's hearing it and thinking it sounds not like regular English. I don't know. Again, here's a question. I would be questioning this guy as to why he thought it was Spanish, which it clearly wasn't. After about 2 minutes, I could hear someone speaking in English, saying good night several times. It sounded as if someone was trying to usher people from the balcony through the room. Again, I know he's really drunk. I mean, what are they arguing about on the balcony? I don't, the stories are so weird. I heard the store. Now here's where it gets interesting. I heard the door open. He can hear the door open. And male voices outside my door. So they're still making noise. Nothing has happened to George Smith yet. They're now in the corridor, still talking crap. I observed 3 white or Latin males walking aft toward the elevators. So this would be 3 of the 4. What happened to the 4th one? Don't know. Is it possible? I tend to think the 4th one was Josh, the California dude, who went to the bathroom, and I think he went ahead. I think the others may have stayed in there. He went ahead down and opened up the room door for whatever reason, and maybe open up the other room door. I don't know why he'd do that. The brother was in the room, but maybe it was somebody told him, put this in a room. Don't wake my brother up. Don't know. So it could be one guy went down with 2 carts and the rest of them stayed. All right. That makes more sense to me because these 3 guys were seen leaving that room at 4:07. It says here, Hyman checked his watch. It was 4:18 a.m. He's a police officer, so he does some things that, paying attention to detail. So clearly they did not leave the room within 5 minutes. So I think some, except for maybe one, the other 3 are in the room until 4:17, and they're outside now, and he checks his watch. 4:17. So they're there for 17 minutes. All 3 of them appear to leave together. If they all left together, then there's nobody left in the room but George Smith. The only other possible scenario would be that Atkins was really Josh Atkins was in the room with them still, didn't actually leave. Some other reason that the pass cards are used downstairs on the 3rd deck. Some or whatever, or somebody ran down and used them and came back. That's possible. So maybe there was 4, then there were 3, then there's 4 again. And then maybe 3 of them leave and 1 of them stays behind. That's the theory the family has, that 1 of them stayed behind to rob George Smith and chuck him off the balcony. But after this happened, he did not hear that door of that room open again. And now he's awake. Okay, so anyway, it says here, what happened to the 4th? Did he stay behind in George's cabin? Okay, in his cabinet, that would be interesting. As the Smiths believe, did Hyman miscount? The deputy chief went on. For the next 5 to 8 minutes, there was movement and talking in room 9062. So now, theoretically, at least 3 of the guys have left. Either one guy is left there or nobody's left there. So either George is alone or George has 1 person in the room with him. He says he heard there was movement and talking in room 9062. I heard cabinet doors close and the flushing of the toilet. I could hear one male voice in the room. and he supposedly didn't sound like there was a conversation going, just one person talking. I then heard what sounded like balcony furniture on the balcony being dragged about and picked up and dropped. So this is now, okay, that's 4:18. He now hears somebody inside making noise for 5 to 8 minutes. So from 4:18 to 4:23 or 4:26, somewhere around there, 25, this is where he hears noise, and then he inside, bathroom, things going on, and then balcony, chairs being moved around. And then what happened was there was a big noise, that boom, and that's when he went off the ship. All right. So at 4:25, that's when the sound slammed. When clearly George went off there's no question, George went off the balcony at 4:25 and hit that canopy for the lifeboat. He heard it right away, and he was awake during this whole thing. So he had heard what was going on. So his story is fairly accurate, I think, as far as how things progressed. And now this guy's smashed down there, and he's rolled off the ship, right? So undoubtedly, so he's hearing the horrific thud was George hitting the lifeboat canopy two decks below. It wasn't actually that far down. Interesting. Okay, I thought it was higher, but it was about, probably 20, at least 20 feet, maybe a little more because I don't know how the ships are built. So 20 to 30 feet. Then the next sound was at 4:30. 5 minutes later, 2 security officers finally answer his noise complaint. And so they knocked on the door, didn't hear anything, so they left. Then they find Jennifer asleep in that hallway, okay? And they bring her back in a wheelchair, and they bring her into the room, and George isn't there. She doesn't think that much of it, actually. She's like, whatever, She's really trash drunk, so all she wants to do is lay in that bed. And so she figures he's just lying on somebody else's floor. After all, she was lying on the hallway floor, so the corridor floor. So why couldn't he be lying in one of the buddies' rooms? And so she's now lying in bed. And I guess I'm assuming that she had some kind of a alarm or something, because she was in 8 o'clock in the morning, which seems early to me for somebody who's been drinking all night. She has a massage, and she goes to it, and her husband's not there, but she's probably just going, well, I don't know. I guess she'll show up. So she goes to get the massage, and then they find her there. Now they discovered the girl on one of the other cabins. She's a young woman. She's taking some pictures of the sea, and she looks down and says, oh my God, there's blood down there. And so that's when they figure out that that's George went over. Okay. So that's where George, so now he's gone. Okay. So, so they start interviewing people and all that stuff, and they come up with the problem they're having is, well, nobody's saying they did anything to him. And according to the police officer, he sees 3 guys leave, and he doesn't hear, after the thumping to the deck, to the canopy when George goes over, he doesn't hear the door open and close. So there's no proof that anybody else was still with him in the stateroom. So now we come back to, did somebody do something to him? So the problem is they couldn't have done something to him earlier. It had to be later, after the 3 guys left. So there is either nobody or one person left in the stateroom. Okay, so I'm going to go to some of my possible conclusions on this in a minute. All right, so see what some of your comments are. See if anybody's got any thoughts on when you need a wheelchair, it might be your sign to quit. Nah, it could be. She was, obviously trashed, but maybe she drank a lot and she didn't have any problem waking up in the morning. Oh, that's interesting. Could they have used something like door stoppers to keep the cabin doors ajar? The problem isn't the return. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here's a problem. Thank you for, okay. I'm going to reread this because you brought something up that's really important. Could they have used something as door stoppers to keep the cabin doors ajar? Removing the use of key cards or having someone wait in the cabin to open. Okay. So the problem I have, because don't have proper information, is if the three guys left at 4:17, when the police officer next door says he saw the three guys going down the hall on the corridor. I have to remember the ship terms. I always screw it up. They're going down the corridor. Why do we not have at that point evidence that somebody opened the doors for them? I'm sorry. Why don't we have passkeys being used then? And all we're hearing is passkeys for those two times, 4:05 and 4:07. Why don't we hear about passkeys for later on after 4:17? Because you would think they would have used them to get back into the rooms. Except if you point out somebody was in the rooms to let them in. Now, that could be so. Let's say the younger brother could open up the door to his room with Zachary. And if Rusty, the other fellow, the California dude, was staying, okay, let me figure this out. If no, I'm trying to figure out who's who. No, the California dude was staying with his parents, so it's not him. Although he could have been given a passkey and told go down and open up the door and be, we'll be down in a bit, because he wanted to go back to the stateroom. At 4:05, he could have gone to the bathroom and left and gone straight to the stateroom, leaving three guys there. So if he left three guys there, he goes down and you see, it gets really tricky because, yes, and he'd be in the stateroom so that when they returned, if this guy was in their stateroom, then he could just knock on the door and he'd let him in. Now, personally, I don't know why. Everybody usually gets their own passkey. When I'm traveling with somebody, we don't just get one, so I have to knock on the door the whole time. I have my own passkey. So why didn't each one of them have a passkey in their pocket? I don't understand that. So even if somebody were there, rather than knock on the door, can't you just use a passkey and walk in? Same thing. The brother might be sleeping. It might be at 4:00 in the morning. Brother might be sleeping. Wouldn't you prefer to use a passkey than wake him up and say, "Hey, open the door for me, get out of bed"? So the whole passkey thing is really weird, unless they're not telling us about the passkeys that come after 4:05 and 4:07. I can't answer that because it makes just no sense, because they won't give us full information. So what we do know theoretically is that, I believe the police officer saw three people going down. Now, he could have seen four, because some people say, oh, no, all four of them are there. Fine. Or four of them were there and three of them left and one stayed. That's possible. Although he didn't hear the door open and close after George went off the balcony. But these guys were there. That I can say. In other words, they took him to the room, and there aren't going to be three other guys that happen to be in the room 15 minutes later. So when the cop saw three guys walking down the corridor, he saw probably these three guys, or three of the four guys, okay? He saw three of those four guys, not some other people on the ship. So we know that at 4:17, at least three of these guys were in George's room before they walked out of it. So the whole thing down on the third floor, or the third deck, coming into the room at 4:05 and 4:07, I don't really understand it at all. Just don't. So the question might be, okay, so if these three guys left the room, here's where I want to go to George Smith going overboard. After these three guys leave, these three guys leave the room. Okay, they're not in there anymore. At least three of four. Let's say one guy's left. Let's say for whatever reasons, four of them are still there, and three of them left, and the other one remained. Okay, now let's look at this. All right, you got one guy left. So let's say the one guy left is looking for the money. You would think the first place he'd look for is in the safe, so he'd get George to open the safe if George can remember the number, or his wife didn't program it. So then he steals whatever he can steal. And then he goes out and tosses George off the balcony so that George can't report that he stole stuff from him. Could that have happened? Well, theoretically, it could have happened. I mean, George is a big guy, 6'2", 200 pounds, linebacker guy. And I'm looking at Zachary, and who I think is my number one guy for doing anything wrong. I don't see him as that big a guy. And I mean, does he have the energy, the ability to get him to go over the overboard? Because remember, it's high, so you'd have to somehow get him up and over. How does he do that? Now, there's an interesting comment made about this. Is a comment that was made by an FBI guy who claims, it says retired FBI guy says this is breaking news later on. This wasn't back then. It's like, we've never heard about this until way later on. And supposedly this is what was said. Nope, not that one. This one. Okay. Not that one. Okay, wait a minute. Where is it? Okay, not that one. There we go. All right. The cop next door heard the whole thing. This is just a comment, but the information in the comment is from this video. There was a video that was taken the next day, and the three guys were sitting around talking. The four guys sitting around talking. They said after we dropped him off the second time, we closed the door. We never saw him again. End of story. Okay, this is Gregory talking because that's the way Gregory talks. That was it. Never saw him again. I'm going to say that's Gregory opening his mouth as he does. Now, in that video was taken, and people said they found the guys like unsympathetic toward the fact this guy they had partied with the night before is now dead. Unsympathetic guys, and they're like, wow, they're horrible. And did they do more than that? Well, years later, supposedly from that same video was said within it. Somebody said here in this comment, it seems pretty obvious he was thrown overboard when he realized what they were up to and started ordering them out of his room. Now, mind you, when he ordered them out of his room, they actually did leave the room because that happened before the three guys were seen in the hall. So that makes no sense. We gave him a paragliding lesson without a parachute. That statement alone should have gotten them all indicted for murder. Okay. We gave him a paragliding. What was this? How's it go? Paragliding lesson without a parachute. That does make one think that he was tossed overboard. Now, that also, if the word "we" was used, it would mean that did happen when the guys were there. And as I was pointing out, going into the bed, like one, you do with a kid, 1, 2, 3, and dump him in the bed. Theoretically, could be joking about that. We gave him a little lesson with a parachute, but that seems a little overdone. Or did they give him a 1, 2, 3 and toss him over the side? Well, that would require more than one person. And where was more than one person? Only time there was more than one person in that room was prior to 4:17, when there was noise on the balcony, other stuff going on. Then the three guys left. So there either was nobody in the room when he went over, or there was only one guy in the room when he went over. So how is that one guy going to give him a paragliding lesson? I don't even know how you would equate that. I can see it with two people doing this, but one person like trying to push him over doesn't sound like it represents somebody paragliding. Now, of course, I'm talking about this guy again, who has got a big mouth and says a whole lot of crap, constantly says crap. And that would be Gregory. All right. So Gregory is, when you click on the link below and listen to him, the interview is being done with him at the prison. I mean, you can see what kind of guy he is. So he was being gangster. Oh, and he also said, I was being gangster. He said that also in that same interview. So the concept was that in this tape, not the interview, but this tape, that he was gangster enough to throw George Smith overboard. But according to this paragliding thing, he would need help doing the throwing of him over. And three of the guys left at 4:17, and then it got quiet. So At 4:17, somebody went into the bathroom, flushed the toilet. Somebody seemed to be opening drawers up, going out on the balcony and moving the chair around. Now, if all of them have left at that point, then there's nobody left in this room with George Smith. And the only, as I pointed out, the only one, if only would have worked if one guy was left. And then what's he doing with George Smith in there? Just going to the bathroom? I don't know how George Smith goes overboard then, without being beaten. First of all, without a fight going on. There's a little teeny bit of blood, by the way. There's this tiny bit of blood. Where is it? No, that's her going off and ending up in a massage place. Where's that little teeny bit of blood? Yep, it's not there. Hold on a second. There's a tiny bit of blood on his. I probably lost that one too today. On his bed, there were these two tiny little parallels of just teeny little blood, and there's some theories that what that could come from, but there's certainly there's no big fight going on up here. There's no blood all over here. There's no like somebody's being beaten or being stabbed or anything. And there's no spatter on the walls. There's no sign of homicide in here. All we see is somebody going over and hitting the deck. Hitting the canopy. So why would George, if nobody's in here with him, why is George Smith going out here, moving the furniture around, and putting the back toward the back of the chair against the balcony, which is interesting because normally speaking, you don't do that because you want to look out. You don't want to look back at your room. What the hell would you want to do that for? So you want to look out, into the dark of the sea and all that. So the chair is turned around. Is he really up there smoking a cigar? Which just seems to be a little odd at that time in the morning to want to smoke a cigar after you've been drinking all night. Maybe he was waiting for Jennifer to come back. So could he have done that? It's possible. Now I'm going to pose. I'm having a real hard time proving that the three guys did not throw him overboard. Only one person could have been remaining in that room, in my opinion. Only one. And I still don't quite see how he would go about this without just tossing him over. The paragliding thing I might mention, here's a problem with these statements, by the way. We hear, this came from supposedly, we don't see this part of the video. We're hearing from a retired FBI agent. And I can't tell if that retired FBI agent had a damn thing to do with the case or not. So it could just be somebody, a talking head, right? And now, let's look at the statement. We gave him a paragliding lesson without a parachute. All right. The problem we have with accepting this as a statement is that we don't know what came before that statement. He could have said something like, you know what they probably think? We gave him a paragliding lesson without a parachute. That could have been before. Or, yeah, like we gave him a like we gave him a paragliding lesson without a parachute. He could be mocking that. We have no idea. He could just be saying it for fun. But I know have been edited so many times, and that when I see a statement I've made, I know that they cut that so that it looks like I'm saying something else. So I don't know the validity of that statement at all. And as far as calling himself a gangster, they're trying to say that has something to do with the actual event. No, the dude was a gangster. He's a drug dealer. He's a bad guy all the way around. He did consider himself that, whether it had anything to do with what happened that night. So far, I can't put him in the room throwing George over. I can't. I can see why even if it's true, I can't. It's definitely not three guys because they've left. So either all of them are gone, as I said, or one somehow remained in there to then do something to him. But there wasn't a sound of a real fight. So the door is opening. See, it's just, what is going on in there? Now, here's a theory. Again, here's my other theory. It's an alternative theory. What could George be doing in there that would involve opening up drawers and stuff and maybe ending up going over the balcony? The only thing I can come up with is this. Now, this is a statement made by Gregory in prison. I have expensive taste. I'm a fanatic with clothes, jewelry, watches. Well, he is, in my opinion, probably a thief, a drug dealer, a thief. This guy, as I say, I'm going to put the psychopath word on him because I'm pretty sure he was one. And he is the kind of the all-around criminal type. I would have a hard time believing that Mr. All-Around Criminal type, who likes fancy stuff, is in the room with this drunk guy, and he's got a $5,000 to $10,000 wrist watch on his wrist, and he's not tempted to take that. Now, remember those two little pieces of blood that were supposed to be on the bed, two tiny little marks. There's a theory that the watch could have been pulled off and somehow it pinched him on those little, where the pinchy things are there, and caused bleeding. I don't know if I buy that, but that's a tempting thing. It's not about premeditated. That wouldn't be a big premeditated thing. It's not a whole group is premeditating. They're going to rob this guy. They were out drinking, partying, having fun. Just no biggie. But it's also possible that whatever was going on in that room, Gregory's going, dude's got a fancy watch. I'd like that. Did he take the watch? Did he possibly take the watch? And when he was half out of it, did George Smith wake up and go, "What the hell happened to my watch?" Did he suddenly realize his watch was gone? Oh my God, my brand new watch from my wife and my best man. What the hell happened to my damn watch? Can you imagine? I'm so freaking drunk and now I realize my watch is gone. Maybe he didn't think it was stolen. Maybe it's, oh my God, did I put it away? I normally put it away at night. Did I put it in a drawer? Did I leave it in the bathroom? We were out on the deck. We were jostling around. Did it go over? Did it fall over the balcony and drop down onto that canopy? Is it sitting down there? Does he climb up on a chair to look over because he can't see well enough? Because there are lights on the ship at night. So some of that canopy could be lit up. Did he panic and think, oh my God, where's my watch? And get up on the chair so he could see better and then lose his balance? That's a theory I think has some merit to it. Because, that to me is too tempting for Gregory to leave there if he could just snatch it. And if George found that out after all the guys had gone and he realizes his watch is missing, maybe he doesn't think somebody took it. Maybe he does. Maybe Gregory took it from his hand, hung it over there, and said, "Up and dropping it. There goes your watch." And he's like, "Oh my God, who knows?" I don't know what the story is, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gregory snatched that watch from George sometime along the way, and maybe George went to look for it and fell over. But I believe that before I believe the cigar at that time in the morning. But he might have well panicked if he found his watch missing. I mean, I would panic if that was a present given to me and I got that trash drunk that I lost the present that was given to me by my best man. The wife I might be able to smooth over, but the best man, I don't know. So that, this is why the case, though, remains unsolved. Because there's no evidence. There's actually zero evidence that he was thrown overboard by a bunch of them. There's zero evidence outside of a statement, which people are concluding means that they did. And of course, people don't want to believe that somebody does something stupid enough, like smoke a cigar on a balcony, perching on a balcony, or looking over for a watch and falling over. But drunk people do dumb things, and they don't have very good balance. And they get real stupid. I mean, drunk people, they fall in water and drown. They fall off balconies. It's not the first time that'll happen. So I don't know I can't see they had any reason to want to kill him. Even if they were stealing crap from him. I definitely think the California guy would not be involved in any way. It makes no sense. He's got enough money. He doesn't need to be stealing from a fellow on his honeymoon. But the Gregory character, I mean, that guy's a scumbag, and I don't know how nice his cousins are either. So they could be scumbags. But one of them Rusty became a lawyer. So no, if that says anything. But I don't see any great pre-planning that, oh, we're going to go rob this guy, so we're going to set up this whole thing so we don't get caught. Well, obviously, if they were seen leaving the place together, making all kinds of noise, that's not really a good plan to steal stuff from somebody. So I don't see any premeditated anything. I just see drunk guys, and maybe one drunk guy, Gregory, seeing he's got an opportunity and taking it. But I don't see proof that he was George Smith was thrown overboard. I just don't. And that's why it's probably left as it is most likely an accident. And, you know, I think it's going to stay that way because if I were able to see all the interviews, every single bit of it, I might have a stronger absolute viewpoint. But the information to the public is pretty bad, and I'm not sure why it's been so bad for the family. I don't know if they just gave up and don't have it, or that they have it and they're not allowed to say anything. Maybe they signed, something that says you can't talk. Maybe. So I'm going to check out some of your comments now. Three guys. What's it? For no reason. Yeah, but that would take three pretty cold-blooded guys to throw a guy off a deck on his honeymoon. I mean, and off their balcony. Did they have a good reason to do it? Because he's so freaking drunk too. If he'd woke up in the morning and said, "Man, did you steal my shit?" I mean, you just go, "Oh, hell no, dude. You must have lost that someplace." And the ship is a big place. You can probably hide stuff pretty well till you leave the ship or whatever. If they even, if it even goes that far. So I don't see any good reason for anybody to kill him, unless it was just a thrill kill. But again, those three guys, 417, left. So either nobody was there or only one guy, and I can't see the one guy having a good reason to do it either, and one guy alone is that much of a thrill. So the only thing I can see is the theft of that watch. Let's say he did. He opened his own door. He looked out and he saw the three guys going down the corridor. I believe that's probably true. I don't have a problem with that. Some people think he saw four guys and don't believe that he's only three. Where's the other guy? But he could have just left ahead of time. I mean, that's very simple there. Or he could have left a little behind them. So let's say when they left, okay, how about this? They left and good old Gregory says, "Oh, I'll catch up with you." So the three of them leave, and the guy peeps out. He sees the three leave. Gregory goes. Now you got George in the bed, like, right? And Gregory goes and snatches that thing off his wrist, and then he leaves. And the other guy doesn't hear the second leaving of the, again, maybe he's just at that point, he saw the three guys leave and he's closing his door. He doesn't hear the other door opening again. And then Gregory goes on his way. And then George goes, "What the hell happened to where is it?" And he looks for his watch. I don't know. Or one guy stays behind, but I can't find a good way for them to throw him off the balcony with just one guy. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So I see why they're stuck with not knowing too much. Well, that's a good point. Smoking a cigar after drinking all night would probably make someone green. Yeah, I don't know if you're that drunk, whether that sounds repulsive. Yeah, at that point, yeah, yeah, probably not. Wait, new record? Oh, okay. He's dead. He can't sue me. Well, that might be true. You need the magic 8-ball to solve the case. Yeah. No, there was. Let me point out that you just brought up something, Sarah. I want to talk about that. Smoking on the balcony. I want to point this out too. Now there was a claim that when they brought Jennifer back, the curtains were closed, and that they blew a little bit. So that meant that that they didn't blow. So that the doors were closed and the curtains were closed. And if that were true, and he fell off the balcony, obviously It would be kind of weird that he'd go out and close the door behind him and then smoke the cigar and fall off the balcony, except if he didn't want the smoke to go back into the stateroom. Maybe Jennifer's like, yeah, those things gross me out. If you're going to smoke, close the doors behind you. So that's the one thing that if there's any truth to the doors being closed, it has some merit. However, the claim is, oh, we came in and we didn't see the curtain blow. I mean, the thick curtains. Well, so what? I mean, were they really paying attention? I mean, I always find these things interesting. So one person says, oh, I didn't see them blowing. Okay, that means the doors are closed. No, it doesn't. Quite frankly, it doesn't mean that at all. It means the wind maybe at that moment in time didn't blow. I mean, I know the boat is going through, moving. So there is an airflow. But who knows whether they were even paying attention? At that point, they were getting drunker under the bed and then they're leaving. They could have noted it, but they may not have noted it. And I don't know who it is that noted it and how accurate it is. So now, why would the curtains be closed? Well, a lot of times they tell you, especially at night, to keep the curtains closed. It's something to do with, there's a whole bunch of reasons for it, supposedly, although it looks bright here. To not bother the neighbor, or something to do with how safety on ships. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff on it. I couldn't even quite fathom it. But if somebody's planning to sleep, they would close the drapes so you can sleep, so you don't have the brightness in your eyes. So that if they were putting him to bed, now, first of all, they may have been closed anyway, but somebody may have closed them so that he could go to sleep. Don't know. And then you don't, if the doors are open, you just walk out. You see, these are all the things you can't really answer. So, yeah. The show we watched that was deemed a homicide. Who deemed that a homicide? How could you have a coroner? They don't have a body. It's never been found. I mean, he's at the bottom of the sea. There's no proof of anything outside of the blood on the. Oh, yeah, I gotta get to this one. Texas Redhead's making me laugh. The blood on the canopy. The question some have is that. Let me say why somebody might say that. I thought of this myself, and I was like a little. See the amount of blood here. The thought would be that maybe it was stabbed and then pushed overboard. Again, you'd have to have a hold of a knife, which means somebody would have to access a knife while they're on the ship or sneak it aboard. Or you could use a bottle, smash it, and cut the person, whatever, and then shove them, and then they land, and the blood starts coming out of there, and then the ship rolls, and he grabs the thing, and off he goes. Possible. But then again, a lot of people have said, when you fall that far, if you smash your head, then you can have immediately have a massive head injury, and you start bleeding right there. You might have bled for a while there and then fall off the ship. So I don't see anybody could say this is a homicide based on this body or the blood pattern on that. I don't see that there's enough evidence of that at this point. But this is funny. They tried to grab him for sex trafficking. I'm sure. Were these the men on the ship with Amy Lynn Bradley? Oh, my God. So if anybody hasn't seen my show on Amy Lynn Bradley is another one missing off a ship. And that one, there's so many YouTube shows on how she was sex trafficked, which I see zero evidence of. It made no sense whatsoever. And nobody needs to kidnap a girl off of a ship to sex traffic her, because there's a lot of women who will willingly go into sex work, and they don't need to be trafficked. Kidnapped. I don't mean trafficked. I mean kidnapped. So that was always nonsense. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised there are some YouTube channels saying he's a good-looking dude. They kidnapped him for sex trafficking. I wouldn't be surprised. Somebody will come up with that. I wanted to see. I thought. Wait a minute. Where did Thomas go? I want to see if Thomas. Thomas has some very good statements. A lot of times, we're looking to see if Thomas had something to add. He is working on his profiling skills. Let's see what else. There's okay. Here's Thomas's comment. Not that they'd know from the amount of blood found if enough to be fatal. Well, certainly not Yeah, not before he hit the deck. So you'd have to prove you'd have to prove A, that he was attacked before he went over. That's what it would have to be. In other words, it has to be a second person involved. You have to prove the second person was involved. If he was attacked before he went over, well, if the injury was such that he was before he went over, then the second person would be involved in that, right? So then you could say it's a homicide, even if the intention wasn't to kill him, but got in a fight or something and caused some kind of damage to him, and then he fell. He's still, so it's going to be a homicide. But if the guy's pushed over or he falls over, you can't tell the difference really as to how we can't really prove how he landed. The chance of him landing on his head, if he's not thrown, you can come up with all kinds of theories on how he's going to land, but we can't really do it. The case of George, most curious George. Yeah. And he wasn't dead on impact because there was some finger, there were a couple, looked like 4 finger things on the edge of the ship. I think he hit, and at some point, he maybe tried to grab and rolled. So I don't know that he was dead on impact. But there's yeah, I would simply say that there's no way to absolutely know what happened. And if my little friend Gregory, good old Gregory, if Gregory was involved, right? Oh, there's the dots. I knew they had them someplace. Those are how small they were on the sheet. So could they come from pulling the? I tried to grab something. I'm taking my hands and going like this. I can't come up with enough. I can't come up blood from that. I don't know. If something pinched him, I damage myself a lot trying to prove things. I don't see that really works, but he could. The watch thing that he would steal George's watch. Sure, I don't have a problem with him being. He loved watches. He liked finer things. He liked bling. He's a gangster. He likes bling. So, but stealing somebody's watch is not a homicide. Now, you could call it a secondary cause of death because his watch was stolen. He went and looked for the watch and fell overboard. I mean, you could go there, but that's not going to hold him in a court of law. He'd be a thief. He'd be a thief, a robber. He'd be a robber because so he was in the room with permission, and then he just grabs it off him, and it's a robbery. It wasn't even an armed robbery. So he got a minor crime, and he's already in. He'll go to prison for something. I don't know how many times this guy's been in prison, but I'm sure more than once. But now he's dead because somebody shot him down. Somebody actually had the audacity to say that these 2 crimes were linked. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? That there's some link between his death and George Smith going overboard? Like, what? The family went after him and did a drive-by on him because they believe he's involved? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that other criminal elements took him out and has nothing to do with the cruise ship, whatever happened there. But could I see him stealing the watch? Absolutely. But that's not homicide. If he didn't push him overboard, if he just took it and left the room, and there were 3, that's what they did. One of the guys went on ahead. I would say that would be Josh. Josh went on down to the other rooms and was, we'll meet you down there. And whatever they were doing, and Josh got out of there, and who knows? And they could have all 3 left together, and maybe they all knew he stole the watch. They were buddies, right? Hey, get his watch. Maybe they knew it. Maybe one of the others stole the watch. Maybe they found some money and took that off of him too. Maybe, but that's not homicide. So unless they literally picked him up and chucked him overboard but again, 3 of them weren't in the room when he hit the canopy. Only one could have ever been there. And I just find that a little unlikely that one person was able to accomplish that without some more evidence of some sort. So yeah, I would go with an accidental death more than I'd go with homicide at this point. So getting really trash drunk does not do you a lot of good. His wife remarried, by the way, and she moved on. So, and has a couple kids or something. And she got $1 million. She originally got like $1.1 million, and then with a new deal made with the family, I think she ended up with maybe half of that amount. But yeah. Maybe the wife stole the watch. I don't think she stole anything. But let me tell you this. I'll end this with this funny one. This would make me laugh. So I love this comment. So here's another theory. Cleet the cop threw George overboard. He made up all of the noise stuff from the cabin next door. Cleet was pissed off because his neighbors were so noisy and ruining his vacation. Well, think about it. He could have made up the 3 guys leaving. He could have made up everything that happened in there. He could now supposedly there's another neighbor that also heard a lot of noise, but the story, a lot of it depends on this police officer. So yeah, maybe he got fed up with this after the three guys dropped him off and made a lot of noise and left. He went in there and said, you really screwed my vacation. So you can make up anything is the point, and I don't know that that's much worse story than any other story, but I would stand with the best one I can come up with is. He went looking for that watch and he thought maybe it fell over and fell down to the canopy, and he went to look, and he got on that chair to look better. Because, sometimes you're trying to look over like this, it's hard to see. So you put the chair up and you get on the chair so you can lean further over. That to me makes more sense than anything else. Although I'm not like glued to that theory. He could have gone out and smoked that cigar. I just find that unlikely. Unless, I don't know if Jennifer ever said he sat up on the balcony doing that. It kind of seems stupid to me. You sit in a chair and you face the sea. Just don't get it. So, yeah. People do get angry over disturbed sleep. They do. That's true. What? Somebody's, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Real profiler. Did I recruit him? Maybe I should do that. Cleet went gangsta on Georgie. Oh my God, that is terrible. Well, it could be drunk thinking, smoking a cigar. I just don't know why he'd feel a need to sit on the edge of the balcony. I mean, because especially when you're feeling like half crap, you just want to sit in a chair. I can't find the cigar thing very convincing. I'd be more convinced during the day. I don't know. I don't know that I'd ever be convinced of that. Yeah, he could have leaned on there to smoke a cigar, but he's not going to fall over, because even if you're drunk, yeah, unless you were in a massively rolling sea and the whole ship went like that, I can't see him just accidentally falling over like that. So anyway, that's my take on George Smith. Very sad situation where, I think what gets you is the honeymoon stuff. It's like you're on your honeymoon, for God's sakes. And that happens. That sucks. That really sucks. Yeah. Well, yeah, Riley Strain. Yeah, well, that's drinking will get you in the rivers. That's for sure. Let's say when people drink a lot, they do a lot of stupid stuff. And I mean, you got Jennifer lying on the floor in the corridor, and you got these guys. Don't forget that the guys that were with them were drunk too. So a lot of the things that they, like Josh, there's people that say they don't remember stuff. Well, they were trash drunk. Why would they remember anything? A lot of people don't remember stuff when they had a lot to drink, a whole lot to drink. So that they don't remember very clearly makes sense. So yeah, and at that time when they took the video, for example, maybe they were drunk again, and saying stupid stuff. Especially this guy just says a lot of stupid things. He does, oddly enough, he actually in one of the thing I'll link, he actually does say, "Oh yeah, I don't think he fell. I don't think it was an accident. I think something crazy happened up there." And so that people are like, "Whoa, he's even admitting something crazy happened up there." And if something crazy happened, the only way it could have happened is if he or one of the others or all of them together did something crazy, because nobody else was there. So that is interesting. But the 3 did leave the room. I keep going over this and over this. 3 did leave the room prior to George going over. So again, unless there was one guy left in the room and didn't leave. and he'd be the one I'd choose. Then George was alone when he went over. But we can't get any further than that on it. I don't, a lot of people thought the wife was involved because she wasn't with him and she came back and she didn't pay, he wasn't in the bed and she was like, oh, whatever. And then she went out for a massage and then she didn't appear broken up on television. She came across kind of cold. And I don't know that they wouldn't have had a good marriage. They just got married. Maybe they're on their honeymoon, for God's sakes. I mean, but then again, yeah, that's possible. I'm thinking back to my honeymoon. I think I threatened my new husband with divorcing him in Tijuana, Mexico. So I was married 25 years after that, but we got in an argument. I was pissed. We were in Guatemala. I'm like, wait, I'm just going to go up to Mexico and divorce you. And like, so that they could have had an argument and whatever. But that she was necessarily, she did want to move on. I don't know what happened. But they were on our honeymoon. It seems hard to believe that she was over him so quickly. But maybe she was. I don't know. He seemed like a fun guy, good-looking, fun guy. Had a whole life ahead of them, and he was going to do well. But yeah, and that's the basic story. Drinking too much, you'd be surprised where people end up. That is true. Well, it's not very romantic to take a cruise on your honeymoon. Too many people around and so many stories. But a lot of people think that's remember the drinking and gambling are two things are there as well. So a lot of younger people aren't looking for, especially if you live together. Mind you, we're not talking about the old-fashioned honey thing where people never lived together before they got married. So a lot of times they've been living together, so they're like, it's not new that they're going to be, oh my God, we're going to sleep together on our honeymoon, So it all just depends what they want. If they want more fun, then they want to be secluded. They don't want to be someplace where we can just stare into each other's eyes for a week, or do you want to be someplace where you can party? And they were partiers apparently, and they like gambling. So gambling, alcohol, everything on one place. Plus, you get off in different locations and see different places in the world at the same time. So for a lot of people, that's a fun trip, and for other people, it's just not their thing. But yeah, they were having a good time for half the time they were there, and then things went bad. So all it takes is 5 minutes for things to go wrong. Oh, you saw how, okay. I don't think she was too into him, even though it was a honeymoon. Maybe, supposedly she was flirting with other guys. And I don't know if that's true. Again, this is people's opinions. And some of the people's opinions who are giving the opinion are drunk as the other people, So you never know. I'm very, very, when there are these witness statements, I'm never sure exactly what they're talking about. I mean, Mr. Police Officer doesn't know the difference between sound of Spanish and Russian. I don't know that these guys, if they've been in the country long enough, are going to speak Russian to each other. But maybe they were out on the balcony talking about, oh, we should rob this dude. Maybe. This is before the three guys left the room, mind you. Maybe the argument was over. Oh, no, man, let's leave this guy alone. But I don't know what Russian gangsters sound like. But it's hard to know. And that's why I take everything with a grain of salt. When I analyze certain cases, I have enough evidence and information that is legitimate. But in this case, there's very little out there except for the little video done by 48 Hours, which is crap, and a few other versions of that video and a few other pieces of information that came out. And I'll link the one I got the most information from. It was called Unsolved Murders of Greenwich. It's from ibolaw.com. That was the best source I had. Oh, and I bought the book. The journalist who was around at the time wrote this book, which costs about $11. And if you don't know about this, you can do this so I get it from Amazon. And somebody had said that they thought she said very little about the case and a whole bunch about the cruise ship industry. And the whole thing was a diatribe on the cruise ship industry. But I wanted to know about those stupid pass keys. I wanted to know if there was any more information. Since she was a journalist at the time, maybe she had actual information on the pass key issue. So I bought the book and I went to search and put in pass key. Nothing came up. And the chapter on George was like 10 pages and that was it. So I returned it immediately to Amazon and got my money back. So you can do that. And I will do that if I find that, since the book was promoted as a journalist view of this incident, and I thought it was incorrectly promoted that way, then I didn't get the product I expected to get. So I returned it. And yeah, this is very, very true. Pat Brown says that, yes, people should not wear flashy, expensive jewelry on cruise ships or any holidays unless they want to be a target. That is true. And when I travel, because depends where I'm at. If I'm in India, I do wear gold earrings, small gold earrings, like just something here or here. You often have a gold ring, and often have a 1 gold chain with something on it. Now, mind you, it is 22 karat gold because that's what you wear in India. And it is expensive, but for some reason you can wear that amount of jewelry in India because every woman does and not get robbed. Go figure. But I don't wear. Oh, I also sometimes wear like a small bangle or something, but I don't wear the big jewelry unless. Now, some people go to India and what happens is you stay with a friend and they have a safe in their house, and so then you put all the jewelry in the safe and you keep it there and you just use it when you go out. And most of the time when I'm traveling on like buses, trains, I change to silver, just cheaper silver jewelry so that I'm not a target. So yeah, sometimes it's wise not to wear the big, huge diamond ring. Some people turn it around, but that only works like for a second. But those things are best left at home, like big diamond rings. I just leave that. But they didn't expect to get robbed on a cruise ship. That's one of the things they think, and they're pretty safe. And generally speaking, they are. But things happen. Only on alternating days of the week. You left it at home. Okay. Well, the problem is I want to dress up and look pretty. I wear saris in India, and I cannot wear saris and go and visit people and have no jewelry in India. I feel undressed. And if anybody understands India, they know this is true. Whenever I see an American in India and they bought themselves a sari or whatever, and they're wearing it in public, and I'm like, but you have no earrings, you have no bangles, where's the rest of it? Because that all goes together. I like glass bangles too, by the way, all the different colored glass bangles because they make pretty sounds. But I intersperse them usually between the gold. I find it really pretty. But no, I don't want the fake. Nah. No, I like the pretty ones. 22 karat gold is very shiny and very yellow, and it's much prettier. So mostly I have it for it's a good savings account. That's what older Indian women do. They said they get gold jewelry for their weddings and stuff, and they use it as a savings account as opposed to putting the money in the bank. So, but I should do a special. Oh yeah, I could do that, but yeah. Maybe one day I'll do some travel stuff, but it's kind of like another channel, and I already get yelled at for doing stuff has nothing to do with crime, Pat. Okay. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. So I found this very interesting but frustrating, and because the information is so questionable. But I say I lean toward. He wasn't thrown overboard, but I can only say I lean toward that. I really do wonder what happened to the watch. But if he fell overboard and had the watch on, of course the watch is never going to be found. And if this character got it, well, that's another question. I don't know what kind of investigation was done quick enough. There was a question asked about him, like, did they find anything in the cabins that related to the crime? And he did just kind of look to the left, and he looked up like he was trying to figure out if was there something in the cabin. But again, I don't even hear about whether they searched the cabins. I mean, if the last people to be seen with him were those people, I would think you'd take an investigative. First, you break these guys up into separate interviews. Then you'd go into the cabins and you'd search them for any of the possessions or money from George. But I just don't know if any of that happened. I really don't. I don't know what happened with the cruise ship investigation. I don't know what happened with the Turkish investigation. I don't know what the FBI even did. Not the information just really is not there. And so, yeah, so it will remain sort of questionable. Thanks, Pat. I heard she gave her new husband the watch. Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Mm. So she wasn't around to throw him overboard, though. So she was not in the room at the time he went overboard. So again, he was either in the room alone or is with one guy. So, and the only one guy I'd pick would be that one. So, anyway, cat news, please. He's just coming in and using me at the moment. He's eating off the end of the wooden spoon by my bed, and he is allowing me to hold the spoon out. Other than that, and he's sleeping on the floor for like 30 minutes to an hour. So he's getting more comfortable, but he's not, the other day I tried to move just a little bit, my hand a little bit closer to his head, and he was like, it was gone. Like that. So that may take another year or two. Feral cat, in case you're new to the channel. I have a feral cat I've been working with for 6 months who comes into my house, eats food next to my bed, and then leaves. But he's very feral. So, do I love that cat? Does that cat love me? I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure. We might have just a sadomasochistic relationship. He's a sadist. I'm the masochist. I think that's what it really comes down to. Anyway, so thank you all for being here. And I will be back. I'll be Wednesday this week for the hangout, probably 3:00. And so I will see you then. Send along any of your thoughts and what you'd like me to talk about. And I'll be there with you. Bye.